This is Project Command, and you're listening to Flashpoints, quick, sharp hits that turn big project management concepts into everyday tools for the fire service. I'm Lieutenant Duke Cuneo, and I'll be your host. Today's Flashpoint: when chaos reigns, make your project an island of stability. Anyone who's worked a complex incident knows what chaos actually looks like. Multiple command voices, radios stepping on each other, objectives changing midstream, information arriving late or conflicting. And yet, despite all of that, progress still happens. Crews don't stop working because the entire scene is unsettled. They focus on their assignment. They establish control where they can. They create order inside their span of control. Good projects operate the same way. In many organizations, especially larger ones, chaos is not unusual. It's the norm. Leadership turns over. Strategic priorities shift. Projects get paused, revived, renamed, and partially redefined. Direction arrives inconsistently and sometimes indirectly. This episode isn't about blaming leadership or waiting for perfect clarity. That's not what project management is about. Just like the command officer of a fire, project managers don't get ideal conditions. They get real ones. Here's where projects can start to fail: when organizational chaos leaks into execution. The scope becomes fuzzy. Every new idea feels urgent. Their meetings lose structure, milestones soften, and documentation stops because everything's changing anyway. That's not adaptability, that's erosion. When the organization is unstable, your project has to become intentionally stable. Stability doesn't mean inflexibility, it means control. So first, lock the scope. Not forever, not rigidly, but clearly. Define what's in, what's out, what's deferred. Write it down, repeat it often, use it as your filter. Chaos feeds on ambiguity. Scope clarity shuts that door. Second, establish a local cadence. Same meeting, same day, same agenda. Cadence is one of the most underused project tools. When everything above your project is shifting, consistency below it creates confidence. Your team doesn't need certainty from the organization, but they need predictability from the project. Third, separate noise from change. In chaotic environments, input increases dramatically. Everyone has opinions, concerns, and suggestions, but not all of them are valid change requests. Project management is the discipline of translation, turning raw input into evaluated impact. If it affects scope, schedule, cost, or risk, it gets processed. If it doesn't, it gets acknowledged and parked. Reaction is easy. Filtering is professional. Fourth, document decisions aggressively, because chaos destroys institutional memory. When leadership changes or priorities reset, undocumented decisions get reopened, assumptions get challenged, history gets rewritten. If it's not written down, your project is exposed. And finally, control communication. Provide simple updates. Use consistent language. Progress against the plan, not commentary on dysfunction. You don't explain the chaos. You don't speculate about direction. You don't let uncertainty bleed into execution. You keep the work boring. Boring projects finish. On the fireground, crews don't take their cues from the loudest voice on the radio. They take them from the officer managing their assignment. In projects, teams don't model behavior from the org chart. They model it from the project manager. If you allow drift, frustration, and uncertainty to seep into your project, your team will follow it there. But if you create clarity inside your scope, utilizing tight plans, steady cadence, and disciplined communication, you give your project traction even when everything around it feels unsettled. Chaos above you is not permission to run a sloppy project. When chaos reigns, professionalism shows up as structure, consistency, and control. So when everything around you is going haywire, make your project an island of stability. Once again, I'm Lieutenant Duke Cuneo, and this has been Project Command Flashpoints. If you like what you've listened to today, please consider liking, sharing, or subscribing to the Project Command podcast wherever you get your content. Questions or comments? We'd love to see them. Send them our way. The email address is projectcommandpodcast@gmail.com. That's projectcommandpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening.